What's going on, guys? Welcome back to TFD. And today, we are back with another developing situation that is starting to heat up fast around the WNBA. And right now, Caitlin Clark's name is being pulled directly into the middle of it. For this one, we've got to take it up to Indy because the noise around this situation is getting louder by the hour. Let's get into it. Over the past few days, we've been closely tracking everything surrounding the WNBA owners, the Players Union, and the ongoing CBA negotiations. And for the last 72 hours straight, the headlines have been relentless. Strike, lockout, revenue sharing, salary structure. Every single day, new information keeps dropping, and none of it looks calm. Now, the players reportedly had a narrow window, roughly 48 hours, to solidify their position. As we sit here today, there's a strong belief that this could be the moment where we finally find out what direction the league is actually heading. And that's where the concern starts. Because behind the scenes, there's growing speculation that one high-profile player may not have been fully aligned with the strike vote. And yes, that player being mentioned is Caitlin Clark. Now, let me be very clear here. I am not saying Caitlin Clark is the villain. Not even close. She has consistently shown public support for the WNBA, the growth of the league, and the long-term vision. We've heard other players, like Sophie Cunningham, openly state where they stand on alternative leagues and outside projects, reinforcing their loyalty to the WNBA structure. And that is exactly why this situation feels strange. Reports and articles have begun circulating suggesting that Clark may have hesitated or held out during the voting process. Whether that's true or not is still unclear. But the fact that her name is even being floated tells you just how tense things have become inside the league. This isn't about one player. This is about power, money, timing, and the future of the WNBA. And right now, every single move is being watched under a microscope. Let's head on over and pull up this article, because this is a very interesting but also touchy topic. Did Caitlin Clark vote in favor of the WNBA strike? Fans think they've figured it out. WNBA players are moving closer to the edge as labor talks drag on and strike talk resurfaces. The WNBA's collective bargaining negotiations, they're no longer simmering quietly in the background. They're now firmly in the open, with players making it clear they are prepared to escalate if talks continue to stall. And from the way I see it, if they actually go through with this strike, that's the clearest possible middle finger to the owners. No debate about it. On Thursday, the Women's National Basketball Players Association announced that its executive committee has been authorized to call a strike when necessary. Now, reporting from Front Office Sports' Annie Costabile added some important context here. The vote does not mean a walkout is imminent. Instead, it reflects just how strongly players feel about their position at the table. And Annie Costabile kind of broke all of this down in a video today. This literally just came out today on Annie Costabile's X account. So let's listen to what she's saying.
In a historic vote, WNBA players overwhelmingly approved a strike authorization. 93% of players participated in the vote, and of those 93% of players, 98% voted yes. Now hold up. Before you work yourself up, this does not mean that a strike is happening right now, but it does mean that players have the right to call a strike if they feel that labor negotiations are breaking down. So why does this matter? Players and the league remain far apart on several key issues. Among them are revenue sharing, free agency rules, retirement benefits, and family planning support. Breanna Stewart said she would welcome help from NBA Commissioner Adam Silver at the bargaining table, which can be looked at as an indication that negotiations are not progressing in a constructive manner. The league, meanwhile, says negotiations are ongoing and points to proposed increases in salaries and revenue sharing to support their characterization that they're committed to getting a transformational deal done. What makes this moment even bigger is that the WNBA has never had a player strike in its nearly 3 decades long history. And as the WNBA continues to grow, more attention, more revenue, more star power, this vote stands to define the next era of women's sports as a whole.
So that was Annie Costable earlier today on her X account breaking all of this down. She captioned the post by saying that on Thursday, WNBA players approved a strike authorization vote with 93% participation and an overwhelming 98% voting yes. And this is where the speculation really starts to take off. When you connect those numbers back to the article, fans immediately begin doing the math and asking questions. That's why some people are now insinuating that Caitlin Clark may have been one of the very few players who held out. There is no confirmation, but the rumors are growing fast. Now, the article goes on to say that kind of turnout is rare and intentional. It shows unity, not urgency. Still, the numbers immediately sparked speculation online. On X, fans zeroed in on the tiny fraction of players who did not vote in favor. With no names released, guesswork filled the gap, and one name surfaced repeatedly: Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark probably part of the 2% that voted no, one fan wrote. And the theory stems from comments Clark made last week during USA basketball training camp, where she spoke about balance in the ongoing negotiations. Now, this footage is from Caitlin Clark last week while she was at USA basketball training. She took part in a brief media availability, just a short media day, and during that session, she was asked directly about the ongoing CBA negotiations. Since then, a lot of people have gone back and replayed that interview, dissecting her answers, line by line. And based on that conversation alone, some fans are now insinuating that Caitlin Clark may be the player who hesitated or held out during the CBA vote. But once again, it's important to slow this down. There is no definitive proof that Caitlin Clark held out or voted any specific way. That conclusion is being drawn entirely from interpretation, not confirmation. All we know for sure is that she addressed the topic publicly, she chose her words carefully, and now those comments are being used to fuel speculation. So, with that context in mind, let's take a look at exactly what Caitlin Clark said.
Very high level, and I think the most important thing for myself, thinking about these CBA negotiations, this is the biggest moment the WNBA has ever seen, and it's not something that can be messed up. And we're going to fight for everything that we deserve, but at the same time, we need to play basketball. That's what our fans crave, and that's what all of you crave as well. Is you want the product on the floor. And at the end of the day, that's how you make the money, that's how you're marketable, that's what the fans get excited about, that's what the fans want to show up for. So, it's business and it's a negotiation, and there has to be compromise on both sides. And, we're starting to get down to the wire of it, and it's become really important. And, obviously I want to help in any way I can, and I tried to educate myself the best I can. Obviously I can't speak to every single number, it's pretty complicated, but I think there are different things that we can find ways to say, no, we certainly deserve that, and we're not going to compromise on that, and then other things that we can probably compromise on. But like I said, this is the biggest moment in the history of the WNBA, and I don't want that to be forgotten. It's important that we find a way to play this next season, and I think our fans, and even everybody that has played in this league that has come before us, deserve that as well.
I'm curious just on the...
It really is just talking to people to see about the status of negotiations, different players.
Now, that was Caitlin Clark speaking on the situation. Her words are now being replayed and analyzed from every possible angle. Going back to the article, it points out that Clark is possibly part of that 2% who did not vote yes. That's the number everyone keeps circling. And again, emphasis on possibly. Nothing has been confirmed. But perception matters, and right now, that perception is driving the conversation. The article then breaks down what this strike authorization actually changes and what it doesn't. The authorization itself comes after more than a year of back-and-forth negotiations, something we've all been following closely. The current CBA was originally set to expire on Halloween, October 31st, 2025. However, instead of letting it expire, both sides agreed to continue talks. First, there was a 30-day extension. After that, the deadline moved to November 30th. Then came another extension, this time 40 days, pushing the deadline to January 9th. That's exactly where things stand right now, and that looming date is adding even more pressure. Despite all of this context, fans continue to point fingers at Caitlin Clark, suggesting she may be the one holding things up. Whether that's fair or not is a completely different discussion. So, I want to hear from you. Do you think Caitlin Clark is actually involved here, or do you think she's being framed by speculation and headlines? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Keep those notifications on, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The takeover is still on. While the WNBA is tied up in non-stop CBA negotiations that feel more chaotic by the day, Caitlin Clark just keeps dominating the spotlight. No slowdown, no distractions. If anything, her presence is getting bigger. Even in the middle of all this league uncertainty, Caitlin Clark is everywhere. We've seen her popping up at major events, showing up in commercials, and going viral without even stepping on the court. The momentum has not stopped for a second. Most recently, Caitlin Clark made an appearance at Gainbridge Fieldhouse for the Indy Classic. Shout out to the off-season Caitlin Clark source for catching this. Fans in attendance got a rare chance to take photos with her, and you could tell how big of a moment it was. Every stop she makes turns into an event. What makes it even fitting is that this happened on familiar ground. The Indy Classic featured games with Purdue, Northwestern, and Butler, and Clark being there just added another layer of buzz. Wherever she goes, the spotlight follows.